I am your Jamaican Queen, Miss Y. You are tuned into How I See It TV, and this is How I See It Live. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, now called X, at How I See It, and on TikTok at How I See It TV. Don't forget to check out any of my videos that you haven't seen yet. And when you go and you watch those videos, please remember to like and share. All right. Um, what's new? What's new? Oh, on my TikTok, I have a few videos over there. I posted a video about this Jamaican store that I found recently in South Florida. I have posted about um, the show that I watched, well, two shows that I watched, um, Making the Band and Hunter's Wives, The Hunter's Wife or something like that, or The Hunting Wives. I don't remember the title, but it was great. It's definitely a show with lots of twists and turns, and you don't feel like you need to go pray and find Jesus and all kinds of stuff after you've completed watching it. But it was a great watch. Um, but yeah, that's basically it. Um, I do want to talk about Real Housewives of Miami. But I'm not gonna talk about it in this video. No, I'm not gonna talk about that in this video. What we're here to talk about tonight is Shantel Christie, Jackie Christie's daughter, the daughter that Jackie slapped into next year. On Basketball Wives. If you haven't watched the season, then I don't know. Should I say go ahead or don't? I don't know. But it wasn't a great season. Like, let's be for real. It wasn't a great season of Basketball Wives. It was another season of people being in Jackie Christie's business. And I will continue to say, I will continue to shout it from the mountaintops. I don't believe that Jackie was the best mother. I don't. I read one of Takari's books. Takari Lee. Um, I don't know if her last name is Christie. I think her last name is Christie. I wish I had my other phone. But anyways, Takari, Jackie's eldest daughter, she wrote two books. Um, and I read one of them. I think it's the second one. I thought that I was reading the first one, and then I realized, oh my God, no, I'm actually reading her second book called Without a Shadow of a Doubt. And I already completed that book, and I have some thoughts. I have some thoughts because in the book Without a Shadow of a Doubt, Takari, she exposes that one, even after Evelyn had donated to her GoFundMe when her son got burnt at the daycare, right? She speaks about in the book how when her mom, I guess, did some interviews talking about the GoFundMe and talking about Evelyn's donation, Takari says that she reached out to Evelyn, and she didn't hear back from Evelyn until they were filming the season of Basketball Wives where we saw Evelyn, she had a copy of the book and she was reading it to Jennifer and Shawnee and all kinds of stuff. So Evelyn was using that girl, and that is disgusting to me. She's in a vulnerable space. She's in a vulnerable space with her son getting hurt. She's in a vulnerable space because she needs her mom, and they're not on speaking terms. And here you go, you donate to her GoFundMe, never reached out after that. And then when it was, because remember, that season was the season Evelyn returned to Basketball Wives. She had left for a couple of seasons. She did Iyanla Fix My Life. She had her a little failed reality series on, I think it was Oxygen or Own or whatever. And that failed. And then she came running back to Basketball Wives. And rather than focus on why her reality TV show failed, why she's coming back to Basketball Wives, she came back and said, I'm going to use Jackie Christie and her family dynamics as my storyline. So what does she do? She reaches out to Takari. About, I think Takari said it was like 3 or 6 months later, Evelyn reaches out to her and basically says, "Hey, we're filming Basketball Wives, and your mom is saying all kinds of nasty things about you." And I'm like, Takari, you should have realized in that moment that that lady was trying to use you. Because in that moment, you had no proof whatsoever that your mom was actually speaking grimy about you. You had no proof. You don't know Evelyn from a can of, from one can of paint or the other, in down to the Lowe's or the Home Depot. But here you are, this woman is DMing you, telling you that your mom is talking crazy about you, and asking you for a copy of your book. You're telling her that the book is basically not ready, and she is offering you um a book agent and all kinds of things so that you can get the book, a copy of the book, quickly to her while she's filming with your mom. And then Takari also shares that the agent and stuff that she was using at the time, they were kind of sabotaging her, and they were doing things behind her back, um, concerning her book. And she had to fire some people. And that's when Angela Staton, I think her name is, reached out to her and said, "Hey, do you want to work with my publishing company to get your book out?" Takari in the book, without a shadow of a doubt, also she breaks down the timeline of some things that was happening in her life. Takari was out here making some bad decisions, y'all. And I am glad that she was open enough to say that in the book without a shadow of a doubt, because I can see why Jackie was cutting her off based on Takari's own admission. She was on again, off again with her baby daddy, getting pregnant by him every couple of months, moving from Seattle to Tennessee, then finding out that she was pregnant, and then spending 3 months working at a McDonald's, trying to get back to Seattle to be with her baby daddy because she felt like it was fate. It's fate that I got pregnant again. It's destiny that I got pregnant again, and I shouldn't be in Tennessee. So I'm going to, move back with him. And while she's making all these bad decisions, she isn't telling her mom anything. She's not telling her mom that she got pregnant again. She already had 2 boys, moved to Tennessee with them because things were rocky with her and her baby daddy. Within a month of moving to Tennessee, she's finding out that she's pregnant with her third child. And she is literally stressing herself to move back to Seattle to be with this guy. And mind you, this guy, his parents had an empty 4-bedroom house. An empty 4-bedroom house. And instead of moving his kids and his baby mama into that 4-bedroom house, he was renting it out behind his parents' back to one of his friends and struggling with her to pay rent in DC for a 2-bedroom apartment. This girl was working every kind of little odd job that you can think of to make rent while her baby daddy is stressing her out, not really helping her to provide. And he had a 4-bedroom house that they could have moved into. And while she is going through all this stress and drama with her baby daddy, she's not reaching out to her mom. She's not asking for help, but she's complaining that the relationship with her mom isn't close. She's complaining that, you know, nobody in the family is reaching out to her. While she's saying in the book that she's also not reaching out to them. Her and her kids are not the hangout with family type, but a brother invites her to a cookout, and when she gets invited to this cookout, she goes on a social media rant on Facebook talking about how, she's so happy that her brother reached out to her. And, even though she has a living mother and father, it's nice that a family member and it's like, girl, you're talking out of two sides of your mouth in this book, because on one hand, you're saying you basically don't want help from anybody, you don't want to reach out to anybody, you don't want to talk to anybody, you prefer to be by yourself. And then you get invited to a cookout, and all of a sudden it's complain, 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 complain about people who are not reaching out to you when you're literally out here making bad decisions. Y'all need to read that book. The second book. The first book, I haven't I haven't read it yet, but the second book I read, and come to find out that when her son got burnt, it was only her and her mom hadn't spoken for like 6 months. It was literally just 6 months. Read the from what other people, from what people were saying on Basketball Wives during the time of her son's accident, it made it seem like her and Jackie were like years and years and years and years and years not talking to each other. But reading without a shadow of a doubt, you realize that what was happening in that mother-daughter relationship is that Takari wanted to be on her own, y'all. She wanted to be on her own. She wanted to go out there and make decisions. She was out there making bad decisions. And the more bad decisions she made, the more her mom stepped back. Like, if you want to be grown and you want to be out here dealing with this Dusty who's not helping you with your kids, you don't want to move back home to get help. We're not, her and her mom aren't speaking because her mom is basically mad at her because of the decisions that she's making, but her mom is still helping her financially, y'all. That's why I say stay out of people's family dynamics. Stay out of people's family dynamics. Stay out of Jackie and her daughter's family dynamics, because Takari has written 2 books. One book was about her childhood, experience. And the other book was basically a breakdown of everything that was happening in her life around the time that her son, before before she had her son, and then around the time that he got um burned. The only thing that I would say about Jackie during that time is that I don't care if your daughter's out here making bad choices with her life and she's not listening to you and she wants to do things her way and she's not reaching out for help. When that baby got burnt, Jackie, you should have called. And I think in Jackie's mind, she made Chantel call. She made Chantel get all the details. And Jackie sat back and said, well, okay, I'm going to see if now that her baby got burned, she's not going to finally reach out to me and ask me for help. I think that's what Jackie did, and that was wrong. That was absolutely wrong. But y'all, it was literally 6 months. And they hadn't spoken for 6 months around the time that her son got burned. And then close to the end of filming, that season of Basketball Wives where Evelyn got the book, her and her mom started talking again. Her and her mom started talking again. It was like Jackie was calling her like every 2 weeks or so, and they were talking and they were reconnecting. She talks about in the book how one day Jackie called her and she was upset about something, and her mom was distraught. And I guess, Takari called Chantel. And at this point, she hadn't seen Chantel for like 2 years. But when her mom called her crying about something, she called Chantel, and she's like, hey, mom just called me and she's, really distraught. She's crying. And Chantel is like, girl, I don't care nothing about that. I'm in my room. So at this point in time, Chantel is living with Jackie. Chantel had just had her baby. And Takari's calling Chantel like, hey, mom's upset, what's going on? And Chantel's like, girl, I don't care nothing about that BS. She knows not to come in my room with that BS. I'm in here with my daughter and blah, 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 blah. I didn't even know that she came back. Because I guess Jackie was out of town or something. And I was like, girl, I didn't even know that she came back, blah, blah, blah. So Takari and her mom, they got back to a good space, I guess, during that season of Basketball Wives. Now, what Takari says is that when that reunion came around, y'all, when that reunion came around, months had months had gone by, and then finally she hears from Evelyn again, and Evelyn is like, girl, the reunion is coming up. Not even a hey, how's your son doing, how have you been, how are his burns, what are the doctors saying? Not any checking up on her, on the baby. Evelyn is DMing Takari to say to her, the reunion is coming up. Do you have anything that you want me to say to your mom? And Takari basically says in the book, she took Evelyn's bait. And even though her and her mom were on better terms at this point, she wanted Evelyn to ask her mom the birthdays of her grandkids. If y'all remember during that reunion, Evelyn is like, what's your grandkid's birthday? You don't even know, do you? But what Takari says in the book is that she wasn't sure if her mom even knew the birthdays of her grandkids. And I don't know why Takari thought that Jackie would even entertain answering that question. Whether she knows the birthdays or not, I don't know why Takari felt like Jackie would have even answered that question. So that was a dud. Y- Giving Evelyn that ammunition to ask on reunion stage, was it necessary? Maybe. But it gave Evelyn something to do and something to talk about on the reunion stage because she had nothing else to talk about excepting for Jackie Christie and Jackie Christie's life. But anyways, let's move on to Shantel Christie interviewing with Carlos King. I guess she secured herself an interview with Carlos and is going to drop later on today because it's now 12:04 here in South Florida. So later on today, maybe 9, 10 a.m. in the morning, um, this interview with Shantel Christie is going to drop. And I already posted to my community wall, y'all, that one of two things is going to happen with this interview. Chantel is already disliked. People dislike her. The black community who was raised a certain way, they dislike Chantel right now. This interview, if she didn't go into this interview with Carlos with a little bit of humility and with a little bit more self-awareness, then what's going to happen is people are going to dislike her even more. If she enters this interview humble, being self-aware, being 100% honest and open about everything, the good, the bad, all of the in between, then maybe at the end of the interview, people will be able to see why she did what she did on the show. For me, there are specific questions that Carlos will need to ask for things to make sense for me. One, when Carlos interviewed with Jackie, Jackie shared Chantel always had um a contract with Basketball Wives. She would appear here and there, but she was never a full-time cast member. Jackie shared that she was the one that reached out to Chantel and said, "Hey, would you want to do Basketball Wives as a full-time cast member this season?" Jackie shared Chantel said, at first she didn't know, blah, 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 because Chantel lives in Arizona with her private husband, their son Noah, that was born last year. And then I think she had to be going back and forth between Arizona and LA because her first baby daddy, Stacy Anderson, he didn't want her to move his daughter to Arizona. So, for context. So, the first question that Carlos has to ask is, if the relationship with you and your mom was so rocky, when she called you and asked you if you wanted to do Basketball Wives as a full-time cast member for this season, why did you accept the opportunity? That is the first question that he needs to ask and that she needs to answer without going around any corners. The answer can be as simple as, because I thought my mom and I were in a better place, and so I thought that, you know, it would be fine for us to do the show together. Okay, that's fair. Because what we saw the first couple of episodes of the Basketball Wives season was Jackie and Chantel in an okay space. Yes, uh, from I've been watching Basketball Wives and from I've been seeing Chantel appearing on the show, she has always come across as just somebody who has a resting bitch face. Her facial expressions just always come across a little bit nasty, a little bit stank, right? She always has a stank face. So even in those episodes with her and Jackie, she was given a little bit of stank face. She was given, she was annoyed because her mom was being overbearing and doing too much and whatever. But it didn't give me the energy of, this is where we saw the season leave off. The energy between them didn't say to me, "Oh, something is on the horizon and they're going to be fighting the whole season." Right? We saw Jackie at the photo shoot with the baby. We saw Jackie holding the baby and Chantel and her mama, kiki keen and all of that. So it's like, girl, this is how you started off the season just fine with your mom based on what was filmed. What happened between those couple of episodes and then Vegas? Because Vegas is where the shitstorm started to happen. So then that's my next question. You get to Vegas, Chantel, and you and your mom, from what we are looking at on the TV screen, are still in a good space. You and Brandy get into it. But you told your mom that you want her to stay out of any feud that you have with Brandy because you can take care of it yourself. You're grown, you push the baby out your coochie. You don't need your mom to jump in. Why is it that when you got to the lounge and Brandy told you, girl, stay in a child's space, why in that moment did you feel like you needed your mom to jump across the table and down Brandy's throat on your behalf? Why did you need that after telling your mother you don't want her to get involved? And also, why do you continue to say that your mom didn't defend you when Jackie actually said at the table to Brandy, listen, I don't feel like I need to step in. And Chantel, you might be mad at me because I'm saying this, but Brandy, we're gonna be respectful. One second, y'all. Y'all, I'm gonna have to end this live in a second. But yeah, that's another question that Carlos will have to ask is, why did things go left in Vegas? Why did things go left in Vegas? Why was it okay for Brittany Renner to walk up to your mom and accuse her of being drunk? And then when Jackie responds with, girl, how many drinks have you had under your hijab? All of a sudden, Jackie is the worst person. Because let's be clear, y'all. Let's be clear. While Chantel is allowing Brittany Renner to call Jackie all kinds of biatches and hoes and deadbeat moms and all kinds of stuff, have y'all realized that Brittany Renner has not once fixed her mouth to refer to her own white mama as a biatch and as a deadbeat mom? She said she's had she understands what Chantel is going through because she knows what it's like to have a deadbeat mom, but still, she hasn't once called her mama out her name. Brittany Renner has not referred to her mom as a biatch on the show. And for me, it seems like all the aggression and energy that Brittany has towards her own mama, she wanted to take that out on Jackie. Another question that Carlos needs to ask is, why did Chantel not understand why her mom did not want? Well, before Carlos gets to that question, he needs to ask. He needs to ask Chantel, why does she feel the need? Because every time Chantel was confronting Jackie, it was always with an audience. If after Vegas, you felt like the relationship between you and your mom had deteriorated to such a point where you can't stand being around her and you're just so angry with her. If you were going to continue on the show, why not say, the situation between me and my mom right now is at a rocky space. So before I get around these other women to confront my mom about whatever issues I'm having right now, whatever is triggering me right now, I'm going to try to have a one on one with my mom. And I'm going to go into this conversation with my mom as calm as possible. I want to express to my mom my feelings about her behavior in Vegas without yelling or disrespecting her. And then I want to talk to my mom about some things that from my childhood that's been triggered because of her behavior in Vegas. And then if Chantel had tried to do that one-on-one scene with Jackie first, and Jackie had walked away and she had said, I'm not doing this, and she walked away and all of that, then I could understand Chantel's feelings about her mom not wanting to take accountability and all of that. However, Chantel at no point during the season ever tried to have a one-on-one conversation with Jackie until we got to the ending of the Hawaii trip. Every single time Chantel wanted to confront her mom about something, it was always with a whole group of women who wanted nothing more than to insert themselves in the conversation and attack Jackie alongside her daughter. And for me, I don't like gang ups on reality TV. I don't care. I don't like the gang ups. I don't like the gang up stuff. You should have asked the producers for a one on one and be calm. Like Chantel came on the show acting like, oh, I'm so above the drama and these women are so toxic and I can't and this and that. But then as the season progressed, Chantel, you became just as toxic. You wanted the drama. And clearly you and your mom had a great enough relationship where she felt like she could vent to you about her coworkers. And you took that vent session and now you wanted to weaponize it to take her down a notch in front of her coworkers. And every time you sat down to talk to Jackie, each time in front of the group you sat down to talk to Jackie Chantel, it was all about something that had to do with the other women. It was never about anything that had to do with you and her. When she referred to you as being easy to manipulate, she wasn't lying. Because all these women had to say is, girl, Jackie said this about you, and you were ready to blow your lid off. You're ready to blow your lid off. So that definitely means that your emotions can be easily manipulated. You want to believe the worst of your mom. So whatever people say that is negative about her, you are quick to believe it. And maybe that's because of childhood stuff. But then again, your sister Takari shared that your mom has never whooped y'all. Yes, she raised y'all with fear. I don't know, not one black mom from the 90s to early 2000s who didn't raise their children on fear. The fear of a whooping, the fear of your daddy whooping you, the fear of not being able to go out with your friends, the fear of not going to a party. I remember early seasons of Basketball Wives, Chantal had just turned 18, and Jackie referred to her and Takari as being sheltered. Now, I can see young ladies who are being sheltered being also very rebellious because they want to do what they want to do. And every time they want to do something, their mama's answer is no, 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 no. What that turns into is resentment because you felt like your mama should have, you know, sent you out there to fly a long time ago. Resentment because you feel like you should have boys up in your mama house and she's telling you no. You feel like you should be dated and your mama's telling you no. You feel like you should be able to gallivant all over LA with your little friends and your mama's telling you no. And that turns into hate, and now all of a sudden that hate becomes, oh, my mom was so toxic. Why was she toxic? Well, she never let me do anything. Like, girl, get over yourself. And if Jackie had Takari working out, because the doctor says, in my opinion, let's say this for argument's sake, let's say Jackie brought Takari for a checkup and the doctor says to Jackie, uh, she's overweight for her age. This is not normal body weight for her age, and it's possible that she can develop diabetes or something. And the doctor tells Jackie she needs to get more physical. She needs to, walk. She needs to run a little bit. She needs to eat more Like, what is her diet like? Is she eating her vegetables? Is she having a balanced diet? Or is she eating junk food all the time? And the doctor tells Jackie that. And now Jackie has this baby on the treadmill for 15 minutes. And she has her eating greens. And Takari's plate looks different from everybody else's. And Takari got to work out because Chantel is skinny. She don't got that issue or whatever. But Jackie isn't explaining that to Takari. So what Takari feels is happening, this is just me speculating. Takari feels what's happening is she's being treated differently because mom isn't explaining to her that the reason she needs to run for 15 minutes is because the doctor says, baby, you are 12 years old and you've reached childhood obesity and you could develop diabetes. And if we don't get your weight under control, these are some of the issues that that your child is going to have. And baby girl, we don't want you to have these issues. Let's be honest, parents in the 90s, they're not explaining ish to us. If the doctor said you got to get glasses, your mama is going to get you glasses. And they're not going to explain that you're farsighted, nearsighted, none of that. They're just going to tell you to wear the darn glasses. And friends at school are going to be clowning you, bullying you because now you're four eyes and whatever. And you don't understand that the reason you have to wear the glasses is to fix whatever issues is with your eyes. You don't understand that the reason why your sister got an extra piece of chicken is because the doctor isn't worried about her health. And there needs to be more vegetable on your plate so that you don't develop childhood obesity. So if your mama isn't explaining that and you got to work out on vacations while everybody else is having fun in the pool and you got to get an extra serving of vegetables and whatever, you're going to feel like that was abusive. You're going to feel like that was abusive. And for me, when it comes to Jackie and her daughters, we heard we heard in last night's episode Chantel say that growing up she always knew that her mom had it in her to do what we saw Jackie did on the show, just slap Chantel into next year, slap her onto the couch with Carlos King, right? However, what Chantel said in the episode is, however, I never thought that we would ever get to that point. So what that tells me is your issue with your mom isn't that she was physically abusive. Takari already told us Jackie never hit y'all. And now you're telling us that even though you felt like it could have gotten to that point while you when you were a child, it never got to that point. So if you go on Carlos King and you say something different, Chantel, I'm gonna call it out because because Carlos needs to get into the childhood stuff. Forget the show stuff. Let's get into the childhood stuff because that's what you were sitting around wiping, dabbing at your eyes about. That's what you were upset about. Carlos needs to also ask you, girl, why do you feel like you're going to come on this show, see your mama act out like she's always act out over the seasons, and you're going to pick up the phone to call her husband to tell on her. And then you made that a whole thing with these women. Like, you're going to tell me I can't call my dad? That's my dad. That's not what that was about. That was you saying that you're not a child, right? Because Brandy told you stay in a child's place. And you said you're not a child. But the second something pops up between you and your mama, another grown ass woman, just like you're a grown ass woman, you're going to say, I'm going to call my daddy. If I call dad, it's going to be a problem. And Jackie's looking at you like, girl, you would call my husband to tell on me? Girl, bye. And then Chantel flipped that into something different. Because imagine you have, I can't even imagine my 8-year-old, me telling her to do something or redirecting her behavior. And she gets mad and she's like, I'm going to call my dad. Oh, okay. Call him then. Call him then. Call him. Mom is telling me that I have to get off the iPad and go to bed, and I don't want to. What you think your dad's gonna say? Like, I can't even imagine for a second my 8-year old doing something like that. Much less she gets to 31 and I'm defending myself in a situation where one of her little friends decide that they're going to disrespect me. And when I turn up, she's going to talk about, are you crazy, mom? Are you crazy? Are you for real right now? I'm going to call dad. Yeah, call dad and tell him how your friend was disrespectful. How about that? Hi, Sophia Two's World. I hope I pronounced that right. You said that's not Chantel's story, that's her sister's story. Read the book. Yeah, I'm going to read the first book. I just finished her second book. Takari, yeah, I know that. I know that. Chantel was in Seattle doing a whole lot of crazy stuff, y'all. She was in Seattle doing a whole lot of crazy stuff. I know there's a part in the book where, and this is another thing I can't stand with Chantel, you can't benefit from all this preferential treatment that you were receiving because your dad is Doug Christie, right? Doug Christie wants to buy his daughter a Range Rover, and Jackie Christie buys Takari a Ford Focus. And what Takari says in the book is that Chantel's relationship with Jackie has always been one in which Chantel speaks her mind, but Takari was always, kind of too intimidated by her mom to, speak her mind in the same way that Chantel would, right? And so for me, if if you feel like your sister's being mistreated and you can speak up for everything else, but you don't speak up about that, then you, even though, because once you get to 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, all right, let's not say 17, but 18, 19, 20, and over, now you're in adult territory. And if you, from a child to teen, you were always speaking up and flippant at the mouth and all of that, but you never called out the BS that you saw happening with your sister, then miss me with the whoa, it's me, I'm a victim too story, because it doesn't add up, right? Chantal got a Range Rover, and for a year or two she was driving around in that Range Rover in her sister's face, and never once told her sister that her parents had bought that Range Rover for her. Everybody was keeping it a secret from Takari that the Range Rover that Chantal got, she got it because her parents bought it. But then again, though, Takari, excuse me, y'all. Chantal is like 19, 20 years old at this time. Where, and she's working at Walmart. Girl, you knew good and well that she didn't buy that Range Rover herself. So I don't like the fact that you put it in the book like you were just so unaware. Come on. But you were okay with driving the Focus that Jackie had bought you. It's like these girls want to have it both ways. They want to say Jackie didn't do enough. But then they want to say Jackie did a lot, but then on the next hand say she didn't do enough. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. So your mama bought you a car and she was paying your rent while you out here making bad decisions. But then now you're in your feelings because they bought your sister a better car than yours. Okay, I get it. It's preferential treatment. Chantal was out here benefiting from all this preferential treatment. She was the favorite child. Jackie helped her write a book at 15. Jackie helped Chantal with an album. Jackie had Chantal plastered all over TV. had her in modeling from a young age. So she got all this preferential treatment. And for me, if Chantel was pursuing modeling and Jackie was telling her that as a model, you have to remain fit, I don't see how that was toxic. That was the standard in the 90s and in the early 2000s. The standard was models had to be a certain size. And now people have fought for the inclusion of plus size and curvy models. But let's not pretend as if in the 90s the standard wasn't that models had to be like stick fit. Let's not let's and this is the part of the conversation that irks my soul is that people want to act as if there wasn't a certain standard in parenting that was the norm when Chantel and Takari were younger. So, how do we blame a parent for operating within the norms of that time solely because now that we're in 2023, 2024, 2025, now we have therapists telling us, oh, this is toxic and that was toxic and this is narcissism, and all of these words are being thrown out there, and then we're listening to other people saying, oh, I had a toxic mom because she would yell at me, and now your mom is toxic. Okay. I've said in a prior live that I'll share this story real quick and then I'm gonna get off. I remember when I was 15, about 15 years old, I think. I'm from Jamaica, if y'all don't know yet. Now you know. And I was a church girl. Okay. I was very sheltered. My life was under lock and key. And the only time that lock was ever open is if I had to do something for church or I had to go to school. Okay? That was my life growing up. So, my godfather, who was the pastor of the church that we were attending, there was like this weekend camp happening. I think it was like a praise and worship kind of like conference or something. And all the praise and worship teams from all over the country at the time, they were coming to this specific camp space. And from Friday night to Sunday, it was going to be like a whole learning experience of how to conduct praise and worship, and or I think it was something about choir. I don't remember what it was, but it was some church thing and it was going to be an entire weekend. So my aunt, who I was living with at the time, gave me the permission to go and sleep over on the Friday night. Now this was a period of time where not everybody had cell phones, right? Your parents probably had a cell phone, but you didn't. And I didn't have a cell phone at the time. So, anyways, I got the permission to go and be at this conference on the Friday night. And the idea was, I'm sure, that I was supposed to come back home on the Saturday and do my Saturday chores. Because my auntie, she works Monday to Saturday. And on top of that, she's also a dressmaker. So when she leaves her 9 to 5, she comes home and she's making clothes for people, right? So please remember that. But, anyways, the Friday night happens and the Saturday, I did not go home. And unfortunately, none of the adults who were, I guess, supervising me at the time felt like it was necessary to call my aunt to let her know that I wasn't coming home. And honestly, I didn't care. So I was out the entire Friday night and then the entire Saturday. And then I felt like I was grown. So I was going to have one of the drivers from my church drop me off at home so that I could get clothes and so that I could go back to this conference for the Saturday night and stay the entire day on Sunday. So we pulled up to my house. And remember, I had chores to do. I had clothes to wash. I had a house to clean. I had stuff that the rule was this is your job on a weekend to do. And none of those things got done. Because my auntie went to work. When she came back, I wasn't at the house. And when I pulled up around 8, 9 o'clock at night talking about, oh, I'm here to get clothes and I'm going back to this conference, my auntie cussed me clean out in front of one of my friends from church. And it was extremely embarrassing to be cussed out like that in front of your friend. So when we got back to the car, my friend said to me, oh, that's how your aunt talks to you? And I had tears in my eyes. But at the time that happened, I felt like my aunt was in the wrong. And she was just so evil for cursing me out and calling me a name in front of my friend. And I held on to that for years and years and years and years and years. And had a resentment in my heart towards my aunt because how dare you curse me out in front of people? But when I got to a specific age in adulthood and I started to unpack certain things from my childhood, I had to gain a level of self awareness that I didn't have when I was a child. And I had to realize that I was wrong. Because how do you get permission to do something for one night and you take it up on yourself as a 15, 16-year-old and think that you're going to do a whole other day and night and in an extra day and feel like your aunt, the adult who was your guardian at the time, had no right to be upset when she had to come home and do all your chores after working 9 to 5. Then she had the people them close to soul, and you didn't even walk in the house and say, "Hi, auntie. I'm sorry that I didn't come home, during the day to do my chores. I am so, so sorry. But please forgive me for that. And I'm begging you to allow me to go back to this conference for one more night. And I promise that I'll make it up to you when I come back home." I didn't do any of that. I just walked in the house and said what was going to happen. Like I was grown. I was I was excited. I felt like because it was a church event, my parents should not have any issues with my choices. And I had to get to a level of now that you're an adult, you have to look back on things that you were doing as a teenager and say to yourself, well, my aunt, she was raised in what, the 60s and the 70s. They were raised up a totally different way, child. Nobody was talking about all this psychological therapeutic stuff when I was growing up. So, okay, my aunt was upset and she used the only tools that were in her arsenal or in her toolbox at the time. And that was to tell me about myself. Was it right based on the standards now? No. But can I get to a point of understanding what her frustration was? Can I get to a point now as an adult and acknowledge that I was disrespectful and that I shouldn't have taken advantage of the yes that my parents gave me? Yes, now that I am 30 something years old, I can acknowledge that. And I think that's the disconnect with Chantel. That I think some of the things that Jackie was doing when they were children It was because some of those things were the standard at that time. And I think a lot of it was also attached to those teenagers, those teenage girls being a little bit rebellious and Jackie not understanding how to deal with teenage daughters. I also think a lot of it stems from the fact that Jackie wasn't really around much. You're on the road, 3 to 6 months, a year, and then the grandma is raising them. And then when you come back to the house, you think that you can be this disciplinarian, and they're looking at you crazy because you're not the one raising us. Grandma's the one raising us. You're not about to come tell us that we can't go to this party when we're here with grandma and she lets us go wherever we want. And then it becomes a rebellion, and they're stomping their feet and slamming doors in Jackie's house, and Jackie's, threatening them with a ass whooping because how dare you slam a door in my house? And then now that they are adults, it becomes, oh, my mom was just so toxic. Carlos needs to ask Chantel, how are you allowing Brittany Renner to call your mom a deadbeat when all your mom did was provide? Was your mom a deadbeat? Because what we consider as a deadbeat mom is one who did not provide at all, right? Because that's what we say about deadbeat dads. They don't provide at all. Or are we changing the meaning now where it also includes the emotional? Like my daddy provided financially, but if he wasn't there, emotionally, then he's a deadbeat dad. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's what the standard is now. But from what I know, a deadbeat mom would be a mom who was 100% absent and never provided at all for her children. And Jackie was not that. In fact, the narrative is Jackie was, following Doug around because she didn't want him to cheat and blah, blah, blah. But and I didn't want to share this from Takari's private live, but what Takari shared from her subscription only, and I'm just going to say this little part and not disclose anything else, is that Doug hated being on the road. He hated leaving his family. And when it would be time for him to leave, he would be bawling. He wanted Jackie to be with him. And Jackie became somewhat of a business partner. Okay? We heard Takari say in the Make It Make Sense interview that when that Madison Square Garden fight happened between the Lakers and we saw Doug punching people out and Jackie running up with her purse, that Jackie was the one behind the scenes negotiating apologies. So Jackie was not just there as some basketball wife hooked to her husband's arm because she didn't want him to cheat. She was there as his business partner, protecting his interests behind the scenes. And I wish that Jackie would talk about that time more instead of letting this narrative carry that she was just there being crazy, not wanting groupies on her husband. She wasn't there in that capacity. She was there because her husband wanted her there because he didn't like to leave and he didn't like being away from his family. And so a part of family that he could have with him on the road was his wife. And he enjoyed that. And he even in an interview, when an interviewer asked him, what does he say to people who feel like Jackie's around too much? He said, that this is my best friend and my business partner. I want her to be around. I don't remember the name of the interviewer, but it was like way back in the day. And this is what he said about Jackie. She is my best friend and my business partner, and I want her around. I don't care what anybody has to say about that. This is the capacity that she holds in my life. And Chantel and Takari, when they did that therapy session, that season of Basketball Wives, what Chantel said was, I understand that you were on the road making things happen, but what good is the roof above our head and the bed that we're sleeping in if you aren't there to tuck us in? Takari even shared on her public live that her mom was never in the clubs. Her stepdad, they were never in the club. They were always about their business. So I'm going to need Chantel in this interview to really and truly explain to me what is this horrible thing that Jackie did in your childhood, not Takari's childhood, but in your childhood, Chantel, that has scarred you so much that this is the energy that you are giving your mom on the show. And what happened? Because and and honestly, Carlos needs to ask her, do you understand what the word narcissistic means? Because there are too many of us that are out here throwing that word around and we really don't know what it means. Even the word trauma bonding. People feel like if you're sitting with your friend and you're talking about your life and past tragedies and all of that, that's trauma bonding. Or if you like somebody, a celebrity who has gone through similar things that you're going through in your life, people call that trauma bonding. People are calling what Chantel and Brittany Renner, they're calling their friendship a trauma bond. That's actually not what a trauma bond is. They are they're bonding over shared experiences, but a trauma bond essentially is when a victim of abuse, when a victim of abuse forms an attachment to their abuser. That is what trauma bonding is. They're taking your abuser is taking you through highs and lows, and then now you have created a coping mechanism where you hold on to the one and two good times that exist in this abusive relationship so that I wouldn't say that so that you can excuse the abusive part, but so that you can survive. You say, "Oh, he hits me, but it's not all the time. He's actually a good person when he's not hitting me." Like that's trauma bonding. Not this other stuff that people are throwing out there. Chantel, do you understand what gaslighting means? Because you said in your statement after Jackie slapped you into next week and people started literally coming for you, you said that this is just a masterclass in narcissism and having a toxic mom and how people gaslight and they light the fire and walk away and act like they're not the arsonist. You have to explain to us what was happening behind the scenes that we didn't see. Because it can't be because Jackie said, oh, she has grandparents' rights. We saw that on camera. Jackie said that on camera. Jackie knew that that would make the edit. So that's not gaslighting and that's not throwing, lighting a match and burning the place down and then walking away and acting like you're not there. That's not what that is. If she is saying it on camera and she's saying it to people, your mom walked away from you about 10 times. And the thing is, the women on that cast, Chantel, you might feel like they had your back, but really they didn't. Because one of them, or even two of them, should have clocked that the way you're entering scenes to talk to your mom is not conducive for y'all to make amends or for you to get your voice heard. It wasn't conducive for that. You're being combative, and if you're being combative, the next person is going to be defensive. If you're being hostile, the next person is going to want to go into self preservation and protection mode. And all majority of the women did was agree with you. Oh, I agree, Jackie's horrible. But you didn't give them any details. So how do they know that for sure? You know what I mean? How do they know that for sure? They don't know that for sure. They're just going off of whatever you're putting. You're saying a lot, but not saying a lot, and they're fine with that because they want to gang up on Jackie too. And not one of them was actually educating Chantel on conflict re- conflict resolution skills. Not one of them went down there to Jackie and said, "Listen, Jackie, I'm not trying to get into your family business, but I feel like you should reach out and try to talk to Chantel one on one. Like, we don't have to be there." Not one of them said, "Okay, Chantel, let me be the mediator between you and your mom. Nobody else has to be there." Ty could have, even though she's messy, Ty could have been a good mediator, I feel. Maybe even Brandy, I feel. Maybe even Jennifer. But I'll say Ty. Ty could have easily played the role as mediator. She could have gone to Chantel and said, "Listen, I see that there are things that you want to get off your chest with your mom, but girl, the way that you're trying to go about it is not okay. You can't expect that Jackie's going to sit down and listen to Brittany Renner, who she doesn't know and who doesn't know her, disrespecting her. You can't think that your mom is going to sit down and let you beat on her in front of her coworkers. So how about this? I can go grab Jackie and you can meet us up there on those benches and I will mediate a conversation between you and your mom. But before I can mediate that conversation, Chantel, you have to actually tell me what it is that's the issue. And I don't want to hear that, oh, your mom is fake and she was talking about Brandy behind her back. Now she's acting like her and Brandy are friends. Like, that can't be it. That cannot be it. And if one of those women spent the time to actually do that, then maybe things would have gone differently. But they were trying to put on a show, a toxic ass show too. And so they kept egging it on between Chantel and her mom. And then this is where we are. So hopefully, Chantel's interview with Carlos answers the questions that I have. Hopefully, what were you chasing your mom through the hallway? Is there something that we missed? Because all we saw was her when she got up and you said, "And that's why your husband is going to leave you. And that's why your kids hate you." And she said, and Jackie in response said, "Girl, bye. You sound stupid." And then that triggered you. And all of a sudden, you're like, "Get her out of the elevator. You better walk away, Jackie." Like, did something else happen that pushed you to that point? And yes, she's going to say, "My mom touched me on my arm, and that's why I pushed her." But if your mom was never violent with you, why did you initiate violence? Make that make sense. So, anyways, y'all, that's my live. I'll be back for part two of this live after the interview airs tomorrow with Shantel Christie and Carlos King. So until then, please like, share, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter now called X at How I See It, and on TikTok at How I See It TV. And until my next one,